Welcome to the Richmond Leadership Lab, featuring business and nonprofit leaders across Richmond, Virginia. Produced and hosted by Filmspire and BenX.
Friends, welcome back to another episode of the Richmond Leadership Lab, Richmond's #1 podcast. Did you know that?
Yep. I did know that personally.
Don't look it up.
Yeah, don't look it up.
Just trust
you
us.
can just trust
True.
it.
Yeah, exactly.
Trust is important.
We are excited to be here. I am, of course, Taylor Quinn, the CEO of Filmspire, offering great video production and podcasting services like this for clients. I'm joined by my co-host, Christian Mosier, founder, CEO of BenX Consulting. So if you need employee benefits, he's your man. And we are here on the podcast. And on the podcast, we love introducing amazing leaders like our guest today that we'll get to in a second, where we ask them about their leadership, how their story, really mine them and glean some great nuggets of wisdom from them regarding their industry and their life as an executive and as a leader here in Richmond, Virginia. So today, we have the pleasure and the honor of speaking to my good friend and client of Filmspire, Robert Bolling, who's the CEO of ChildSavers here in Richmond, Virginia. Robert, thanks for coming.
Thanks, Taylor, and thanks, Christian. It's a delight to be here.
It's awesome to have you.
Thank you.
How's it feel?
Oh, it's cool. It's kind of cool.
Have you done anything like this before?
I have not done a podcast. So I've done a radio broadcast, but not this. So I
and a moderator.
I was a moderator at the Richmond Forum. It was exciting.
As we were talking about.
To ask questions to an expert in the field. And this speaker was talking about let's not forget boys.
I think I saw him speak at a different place. And was he a British guy?
He was.
Yes, he came and spoke at St. Chris, and I saw that. It was very interesting. Anyway, that's a rabbit hole we could go down.
Yeah, we could go there forever.
But Robert does have a great radio voice, as you can hear, and he's got that great voice, so he'd be a great moderator. Robert, so, gosh, there's just so much to get into with your story and ChildSavers and things like that. We'll get into ChildSavers and what that's been like for you and your mission and your work there. But can you just tell us briefly about, I think your story is really unique that you have. Like, it's truly a Richmond story, I feel like, and more specifically a Churchill story. Can you just kind of give us a little bit of like your background, your childhood, and what that was like? And eventually we'll get to how you got to ChildSavers, but kind of give us the backstory on your life and how you got into be in leadership positions.
Sure, I'll do it real quickly. I am a Churchillian by birth. In fact, my family moved to Churchill in 1958, and I was 6 weeks old when we arrived. And my father and mother were living with my older 3 brothers at the time in Jackson Ward, and were displaced by the construction of Interstate 95. And my dad looked for this house, found this place, and my second oldest brother described it like this to my mom: "I like this place because it has 2 of those." And she looked at him and said, "2 of those?" He said, "Bathrooms." So we didn't have to share the whole family. But that experience of growing up in Churchill in the 1950s and 60s and 70s was exciting for me. I have now 5 siblings, so it was 5 boys and 1 daughter. And she is the youngest, and we call her Oops, because she's 5 years younger than my youngest brother.
What a great name. I'm sure that she loves that.
Right.
Yeah.
And my mother was delighted because she finally got a girl in the house with her.
Yeah.
So that was great. My parents grew up in Richmond from Jackson Ward. My mother's family is from Albemarle County. As far as we know, my dad's family is from the Richmond area. But they obviously grew up during segregation and it really impacted who they were, and that influenced who we were as kids. My father finally, after being a laborer, brick mason, that kind of stuff, he finally got a job at the VA hospital at McGuire. And he ended up walking to work almost every day, which was incredibly inspiring for a young boy who was watching this man try to care for his family.
Yeah.
While his wife, my beautiful mom, took care of us as kids.
Right.
And when we left the house, then she went off to work and eventually worked for the IRS after getting a degree. And I often think about my mother now as probably the smartest person I have ever known. And if opportunities for her were different, she would have had a totally different kind of career. And it's inspiring for me to think about that.
Yeah.
But she laid the groundwork for who I am, my brothers, and my sister.
Right.
So she got a degree after raising.
Yes,
all of you all.
she did.
Wow.
She did. She decided, okay, what am I going to do now? And so she was working part-time jobs.
Yeah.
And she said, I'll go to school. So she got an associate's degree and then began to work for the IRS.
Wow.
I'm like, gee, Mom. And that's where she ended her career.
That's amazing. Yeah. Can you paint for us for a moment? Can you just paint a picture for us what Churchill was like in that time in history, and like in the 50s, 60s as a child? Paint us a picture as to, because Richmond's just changed, grown a lot over the years and things like that. But paint us a picture what that was like to grow up in that neighborhood at that time.
So I'll give you a sense of, we call ourselves the 36th Street Kids. Okay. And on the block that I was on was 300 feet, so 100 yards, a football field. And in that block, there were 70 children. Let me say it again, 70.
Wow.
So there were a lot of large families. So there were
a lot of sports.
A lot of sports. We actually played football on the asphalt, meaning tackle football at times.
Oh,
on
my,
the asphalt.
Build character.
Yeah, it does. It does. But it was a great community to grow up in. My teachers lived in the neighborhood. There was always somebody watching out for us. And when our parents had to leave to go to work or do other things, it was a place where I learned what to love is like and what family love is, and then extended family love. Even into school, because my mother was the president of the PTA. So you can imagine we had to keep a pretty straight course. And if we ever veered off, my mother knew by the time we got home. Yeah. So it was fun. We didn't have a car as a kid. And the thing that changed our lives more than anything else was when corporations, Philip Morris, Reynolds Metal, began to hire black people. And often many of those jobs were in as custodians, but they also moved up on the production side and even on management side. And that moved us from a poor working class neighborhood to a pretty middle class neighborhood. I think we got our first car when I was like 13. Okay. And so we took the bus everywhere. Yeah. I knew the bus system in Richmond really well. Wow. My church is in the Randolph community, and as you might imagine, getting to church from Churchill was an adventure sometimes.
Yeah, from Churchill to Randolph.
Randolph, yeah. If you took the bus, it took you up Broad Street through around by Jackson Ward, and then you can come down Harrison. If you walked, you had to walk through Oregon Hill, which was a very different neighborhood back then. Sure. And oftentimes it was a race to get through Oregon Hill safely. So that was exciting for us in many ways.
That's one way to put it. Yeah,
a lot of ways.
But it sort of built who we were as young people, and growing up in this space where people really cared about who you were and whose child are you. Are you Davis' child? Yes, ma'am. All right, that finger point. Yeah, keep ready. Education was big in my house, so my mother pushed us to do really well in school. Sports was huge for us. Yeah. If you know where the Salvation Army Boys and Girls Club in Churchill, I grew up right around the corner from that. Wow. I was a charter member, so I watched that club be built from a house that had previously had horses and cows in the yard to this place where we could gather as kids and enjoy and organized sports, basketball, baseball, football, learn how to shoot pool there, bumper pool.
It's a good skill.
Yeah, exactly.
And learn how to swim at the club. And if you know the history of swimming in black folks, in fact, most of our ancestry were strong swimmers because they grew up on the coast of Africa.
Right.
So they had
Sure.
to swim to
Makes sense.
eat and survive. When we got to the United States, swimming was not a priority. And so learning how to swim was one of those safe things for us. And so the club taught us all that
Wow.
kind of stuff. As a kid, I did, there was a man who ran that club, and his name was James Bryant. And he was the first black man that I saw run totally in charge of something. And then there were these outside of the small businesses that were in community. And I think that was the early sort of seed that was planted in my head that I could do the work that I do today. And I started reflecting on that not too long ago, that James Bryant was probably the first guy I saw that did what I do today.
Well, it's amazing how many guests we've had on the show that refer to a time in their childhood that instilled some type of either leadership capability or motivation. Or we've had, I feel like, a decent amount of guests on the show refer like, my dad did this or this person did this, and how important that is, even instilling it at a young age.
I take that very seriously in the job I am today for a couple of reasons. I'm the first leader of color at ChildSavers, and it's 101-year history now. And
congratulations again. That's
you,
awesome. 100 years. Wow.
And it's a place where we reflect on our history a lot, that we opened as the first guidance clinic in the South and one of the first 10 in the country. So that's an exciting milestone for us. We also opened as a place that did not accept that only accepted white kids. And we grew out of the 1918 flu pandemic when kids were basically left alone because many of them had lost their parents or their caregivers. And so a year later we were integrated, but the service for the individuals was separate. In the 1950s, a medical director at ChildSavers suggested that it was not a good thing for kids of different races to be served together. And he made that testimony in the Farmville, Prince Edward County school case that led up to Brown versus Board of Education. And today we're not that organization. We're a diversified organization with a diversified staff. We run program for anybody that needs the programming. And I'm proud to say that we're there to provide access to mental health services and to support the providers of child care any way we can. And I think we do a pretty good job at it.
I want to jump more into that. And before we do that, though, can you just quickly tell me the short story of, like, how did you get to ChildSavers?
Sure.
And things like that.
Background, I grew up in Richmond, as you know, and I went to public school here through the 8th grade, and I was one of those kids who, I was a bookworm. My cousin and I referred to ourselves as nerds, and we were the nerds of the family, and I got an opportunity to go to boarding school in New England, and I went there for 4 years and did my undergraduate work in New England, in Western Massachusetts. And that experience exposed me to things that I had never seen in my life. Amazing wealth. I didn't know people were this rich. One of my classmates went down to the local men's store and spent $5,000. And that's what my dad made in a year.
Yeah. Wow.
And so it just blew me away. But at the same time, it showed me that I was as bright and smart as any kid in the space, and I love being there. I eventually served on the board of that school for a while. After I graduated from college, I was going to law school, and got into law school and decided I didn't want to be in school
for another 3 years.
Because I was tired of being broke. And so I decided I was going to go into the market and went to corporate America. So I joke, I think you've heard me tell this, Taylor, I joke that I know more about pots and pans than the average human being, because I worked for Corning Glassworks in the consumer product division, and I learned a lot about cookware and supplied all the cookware for my aunts.
I'm sure they
you were popular during the holidays.
Really I got this extra pan.
And loved that work, and did sales and marketing. And I think it helped me build a skill set for the work that I do today. And eventually decided that that's not what makes my heart beat. And I was interested in public policy. As a as an undergraduate, I studied political science with a focus on Southern African studies because it was during the apartheid era. And I took a year off from school and actually went to Southern Africa and taught school for a year.
Awesome.
And that school was really designed to show the South Africans that apartheid was not the right system for the future. And kids of different races and nationalities could all be educated together. And I kind of liked that idea.
Yeah.
And so when I came back, finished my degree, started working for Corning, that love went away, but it taught me some skills like how to make a sales call.
Yeah.
There you go.
How to make revenue.
How to generate revenue.
Yeah.
And then eventually I went into public policy around healthcare. And that was a changing point for me. I worked for the state health department for about 11, 12 years. And I started as a statistician, that nerd thing, and then went into the policy side and helped the Commissioner of Health decide on cases that were developing hospitals and nursing homes across the state. And the team of us wrote opinions, and we had this incredible woman who was our leader who taught us everything. And I really appreciated learning from her. And then Virginia started to look at health disparities, particularly around racial groups and men and women and children of different races. And I became Virginia's first director of what was then called Minority Health. And that really opened my eyes to, I think the healthcare industry is where I want to be. And so I stayed at that job, loved it, worked for a few governors and a few commissioners and of different political parties.
Absolutely.
So you learn to adjust another skill set. How to navigate through different waters it was important. And then I started thinking I need to get some more background in business. And so I left the state health department and went to work for the Chamber of Commerce in Richmond. And
I didn't know that.
That was a pretty cool job. It was the original job was around helping the business community understand the importance of early education and early learning and early childhood education. Hence, why I'm in the business I'm in today. And that was great. And when I decided to leave that job, I entered the nonprofit field for the first time.
Which is different than government and business,
right.
of course.
So private sector, public sector,
sector,
and then this strange sector called nonprofits.
Yeah.
And that was really a friend of mine who was in the leadership course with me. At the end of the course, he said, "You're in the wrong business. You should do nonprofit and help raise money." I was like, "What are you talking about? I don't know how to do that." And sort of reflect back to James Bryant.
Right.
And it was really about telling stories. How can you tell great stories to convince people to invest in in my case, adults or children who don't have access to a lot of the opportunities that I had or you had or anyone else. And that intrigued me. And I raised money for my first nonprofit here, and it was exciting. And then I went to work for another nonprofit that had an entrepreneurial spirit. It was in the north side of Richmond, and it was all about how do we build these small businesses to help folks who are returning from incarceration gain employment. And so we ran a thrift store. We started a real estate business to redevelop housing. And for the first time, I opened a restaurant.
Hey.
Amazing.
It was,
what kind of restaurant?
It was just a sort of quick cook.
Nice.
Nice.
Like burgers?
Or burgers, chicken. Yeah.
I could use a burger right now.
There you go. And it was fun work to do, and to be in the center of a neighborhood that was changing and had this long history of it was one of the first communities that African American folks moved to from Jackson Ward, Churchill. It was on the north side. It was Highland Park. So that was kind of fun to work there. And finally, I got an opportunity to return to Oregon Hill. as the executive director of Williamsburg Community House. It was a community-based center that did social work and mental health work and after-school programming, a child care center, a library, developed the first nonprofit in Richmond to have a farmer's market. It was called a Birdhouse Market, which exists today.
Wow.
So that kind of, it was exciting work for me. And then I got the call to come to ChildSavers.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
It really changed my life.
That's amazing. It's just like, for me, it's like a full circle story because you were in Richmond, and then you left with your education, and then even some of your initial studies and work, and then coming back to Richmond, and you've seen so much change and things like that. So, which is amazing. Can you just give us now like the quick elevator pitch? If no one's ever heard of ChildSavers, give us the quick elevator pitch in terms of what ChildSavers is in 100 years, which is amazing because what organization gets to 100?
Yes,
now
not many of us in Richmond.
I think
amazing.
there's some statistics that say it's only a couple percent.
It's a very small number of us who are out there. But ChildSavers, I always like to start with mission. And ChildSavers' mission is pretty simple. ChildSavers guides our community's children through life's critical moments with trauma-informed mental health and child development services. So in those words are history, guides. We were the Memorial Child Guidance Clinic when we opened door. Our community's children, we really believe that every child in this community is the responsibility of every adult. So we should be doing everything to make sure that children can thrive. Critical moments happen for us twice in a child's life. And the first time is when a child is born, 0 to 5, and they are developing the power to learn for the rest of their lives. And imagine if we could feed all the positive things in their brains that we could, because that brain is making neural connections at a rate of 1 million per second.
Wow.
As a father of a 3.5-year-old, that is, and a 1.5-year-old, that's just amazing and terrifying at the same time.
But it's a powerful thing.
Yeah, it is.
That if we could put in the minds of kids that they can be great, imagine what they do. We often talk about kids in deficit ways, and I like to think of every child looking for an opportunity to be great, to be marvelous, to be at the top of their game.
And to find that potential.
Yeah, right. And it's out there. It's out there if we help lay the groundwork, and that's developing that brain. And the second time is kids, and we're learning more and more about behavioral health these days, and we know that mental health concerns for kids are pretty significant. The most recent data says 1 in 5 kids will experience a mental health concern by the time they're 14, 15, 16 years old. And if you think about that, we really have to support these kids, and that could look like body image stuff. It could be anxiety, depression, or for us, it's trauma. Yeah. And many of the kids we see have significant trauma in their lives. And that trauma could be sexual assault against someone in their home, them. The witnessing of trauma is pretty significant. And just to give you a stat to really help you understand how important this is, research says that when you experience 4 traumatic events in your life, that's toxic trauma. And if that trauma isn't treated early, there are these adverse outcomes that could happen to you, not graduating from high school, substance use, being the perpetrator of trauma against other individuals. And for ChildSavers children, on average, they experience 6 of those traumatic events. And the average age of the kid we serve is 9 years old.
Oh, my
wow.
gosh.
So imagine that.
Yeah.
And our work is around, okay, let's bring that trauma to life, and let's help the kids develop the tools to be resilient again. And it's very difficult work because our team sees pretty tough stuff that we ourselves have to take a step back from. And we hear these stories over and over and over again, and for the children and the families, they're looking for us for that support to help them make better decisions about how they can again achieve that opportunity to be great. And if you relate that to our child development work, that early childhood education, it's really, that's the prevention work, putting all that good stuff in the brain, so that if you experience this trauma, you have some factors that can help you beat back that trauma. And so we're the only organization in the Commonwealth that has this unique combination of those two services. Yeah. How do we help children when they're in a difficult moment, and how do we support the providers who are working with our youngest children to make sure that child care is quality child care for kids? So
Yeah, I was going to ask, like, on your staff and at ChildSavers, is it it's probably a conglomerate of, you know, nurses or psychologists, or how exactly do you guys help the?
So on the mental health side, we're primary licensed clinicians, therapists, and we have some licensees, those who are working towards license, and so we have a mixture of those individuals. We also have a psychiatrist on staff that helps support kids who may require medication. We think therapy is the first tool and the most powerful tool, but some kids do need some support through medication, so we will support those kids with that. On our child development side, we have mostly professionals who've worked in the field, and they really understand. Many of them have operated child care centers or child care in their home, and those are small businesses. So there's this entrepreneurial component to these people who care about children and want to take them in and support them so that they can learn for the rest of their lives. But they also want to learn how to run a business. And so we help support both of those, which is, how do you manage cash flow?
Right.
We all think about it.
Yeah, exactly.
And it doesn't matter whether you're for-profit or not-for-profit. Yeah. Right. We're all thinking about cash.
Yeah, totally.
And budget, expenses.
Yeah. There you go. There you go. And helping them understand that and generate enough revenue to survive as a business is an important component. So those two things we think have tremendous impact. And to give you a sense of our programming, we run a clinic in the old RVA radio station at the top of the hill at 22nd and Grace.
In Churchill.
Yep. Home again. And
all roads lead back.
There you go. And then we, in 2016, 2017, we started thinking about how can we get to spaces where kids are. And schools became our highlight. And we started in Richmond in 3 schools, placing our clinical staff inside those schools. And now we're in, I think it's now 23 schools, City of Richmond, Hopewell, and Colonial Heights. And that's important because now if a child is having a mental health concern inside the classroom, we can be there to support the school employees as they teachers, administrators, custodians, who all are part of that school family. And on the other side of our business, we have grown from we have focused our work on developing a workforce in child care, expanding access, and helping people understand where quality child care is, and then lastly, to make sure the kids eat great food.
Yeah, that's a big deal.
Oftentimes, the food that they get in child care is the only food they eat that day.
Yeah. And
so today, ChildSavers, I started in ChildSavers in 2012, and we had roughly 25, 26 employees and a budget of about 1.8 million. And today we have close to 90 employees and a budget that will exceed $12 million this year. So it's been tremendous growth in those 12 years. Yeah. A lot of that happened over the last 5 years as the impact of COVID and social justice movements across our locality, our state, and the federal, and the nation. And so it's exciting to be in a space where we can help. And to work with a team that is totally committed to doing some of the most difficult work that is. Imagine all of us think about child care if we have children. All of us. How are we going to care for these kids if we want to go to work? We have to make decisions about this expense in our family that is often more than going to college.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Think
it
about
is
that.
wild. It is wild.
And so we're all, if we choose that, we want them to be in safe, quality spaces. Yeah. If our kids who are now living in a climate that is very different from the one I grew up in, probably the ones you grew up in, and they face issues that we can't imagine, and the speed in which information gets to them and they have to process it is so great that we got to really help these kids think through that and support them in any way we can. So
that's great.
I really love this stuff.
Yeah.
We'll be right back after this short message.
Are employee benefits a headache for your company? At BenX, we simplify benefits so you can focus on growing your business. From custom benefit solutions to cutting-edge technology, we make it easy for companies to take care of their teams. Visit BenXConsulting.com to see how we can simplify benefits for your growing company.
Your story is powerful, but is it reaching the right audience? At Filmspire, we create compelling videos and provide marketing strategies to make sure they drive real results. From crafting your message to amplifying it, we help you connect with your audience like never before. Ready to inspire? Let's tell your story. And now, back to the show.
Yeah, heck yeah. And just you can already see just by talking to you the impact
that
you all are making. Going from 25 employees, a little over a decade ago to almost, 100 today.
Yeah.
I mean, obviously the name of this podcast is the Richmond Leadership Lab. And so I guess it's a great segue. Talk to us a little bit about your personal leadership journey within ChildSavers, because I'm sure it looks a lot different today than it did 13 years ago.
I think one of the most important lessons I learned was the most powerful thing a leader can do is listen. Listen. The old wives tell the people, my grandmother taught me, my mother taught me, all of my aunties, is you got one of these and two of these. Use it that way, in that proportion. And when you listen, you hear things that you might not have heard if this thing is moving all the time. And often you hear the stories of kids, the stories of families, the stories of your colleagues who want to do great things and need your thinking and guidance to help get there. And so that's a skill set that I really have developed over the last 13 years. Sometimes I'm really good at it. Sometimes I'm not as good. But I think it has really changed because you can hear a simple thing like, hey, we're stressed out. COVID did us in. And maybe we need some mental health work.
Yeah.
All of us, whether we're our child care workforce or our mental health workforce. And it made us think more about benefits. And can we provide that support beyond a employee assistance program? And we did. We found a vendor that provides mental health counseling, remotely, virtually, telehealth, for all of our employees, and they can invite 6 family members to join them in it. And the organization pays for that so that staff doesn't have to pay for it. That benefit was a game changer for a lot of people. And it took a while. We didn't hear it clearly the first time. And they kept saying it, and we heard it. And it's making a difference, I think.
I was going to ask how you take care of staff that is in the thick of it.
It's tough. It's most of the time we think about our mental health therapists, and rightly so, because they hear these stories. But if you think about our child care staff, they're in the same thing. A lot of these workers that we have are older women who are going out at night into people's homes to help support them and teach them, because they've been taking care of kids all day long, and the evening is the only time they have for a lesson to learn. I mean, how to look at a P&L, for example, or how to prepare a great meal for the kids the next day. So you've got to constantly you can use your benefits like the one I talked about, or a simple thing like paid time off. Like, you need to take some time off. Take some time away from you. Even the CEO take some time away.
Yeah.
And so that's an important thing. We figured out ways that my staff is probably majority under 40, and so they're young, they're excited, they're building families, some of them, and so we want to make sure that we can support them in ways like the benefits I've talked about, but also can we do fun things at work? We twice a year we get together as a full team and eat somewhere and play games and do silly stuff. We built into our systems are ways that the supervisory staff can support and listen to our younger staff who are many first in their career or early in their career, and helping them to navigate through what it's like to work every day. So that's the kind of stuff we think about all the time. I call it my open door policy. In my office, there are two doors. One is glass, and the other is solid. And when the solid door prevents you from seeing in my office, it's closed. But if you can see through the glass, it's open. And so I often say to people, if you can see in my office, the door is open, so knock. And most likely I'll take a moment to listen, because sometimes it's just people want to hear. And when I arrived at ChildSavers, there was an employee who came into my office, I'm weeks into the job, and said, I have never been in this space, and I've been working here for 7 years. And that struck me. I was like, you've never been in the CEO's office? And
7 years, wow.
So it's fun to think about how we can really support people who do important work.
Robert, you did something. I remember when we spoke, a ways back about during COVID. I think that you did. You were matching people within internally, right? Yeah. Of different. Can you explain what was the reason? What you did, and what was the reason why you did that?
Yeah, that was if you can imagine, and we all can think back to COVID, and then it really, the catalyst of that was George Floyd's murder, and we had this huge group meeting at the building out on the back lawn, and saying, trying to make the decision: should we stay open or not? Should we be there to support families? And ultimately we decided. And one of the things that came out of that was this idea of what I call fierce conversations. And if we're really going to connect to people and learn about people, you've got to say, Taylor, Christian, I want to have some conversations that may be awkward for the both of us, but I want to have them anyway. And let's sort of stumble through that.
Yeah.
And sometimes have ouch moments. Ooh, that was tough, Christian. But let's try. And if we can have these kind of conversations, we can know each other better. And so we asked every employee to pick somebody that was different from them, however they perceived that difference, and just have these fierce conversations. And it took place for about a year. And it was a variety of conversations that took place. I had two people. I had a very young, newer employee who was in her 20s, who was Caucasian and went to a Christian-based school. And we were both Christians, so we had that in common. But we didn't have a life experience that was the same. Yeah. And then I had a woman who was closer to my age, who grew up in a working class community similar to mine, but our experiences growing up were very different. And just being able to talk and say, can I ask you this question that I'm not sure I would ask in an open forum?
Yeah.
And I think it really helps, and I think it nurtures relationships, and it helps us get to really uncomfortable spots and navigate through that to get to some type of understanding and solution. And the way I think about it is, my wife and I recently were on a trip to Germany, and we went to Nuremberg. And we were listening to a tour guide who was talking about the Nuremberg trials. And she indicated, she was a school teacher, and she indicated that I think she said 8th or 9th grade, all the children in the public school system have to visit a concentration camp because they don't want to lose that story
Wow.
and go back to where they were.
Yeah.
Imagine if we could do that here.
Wow. Yeah.
Wow.
It's a powerful story.
Yeah.
And those fierce conversations help us get there.
Reminds me of our last podcast, Kyle Benusi.
Same, yeah.
We talked about brutal honesty,
Yes,
basically.
it's the same thing. And we have to stop yelling at each other.
Yeah.
Yeah, of course.
And get into a space where we can talk to one another.
Yeah.
Even though that talking may be hard.
Yeah.
Yeah, even if it's uncomfortable, it's still like it's coming from a good place.
Right.
Or it's still honest.
That's the assumption.
Yeah.
You got to
exactly.
assume that. You got to assume that.
Yeah. That makes a lot of sense.
But it's so much easier said than done at the same time, too.
Yeah.
It
But
is.
it's so important. We've had a bunch of leaders talk about, and you included, just about the honesty and the feedback and listening to employees, right? Because one of the crazy stats that I always hear, and I've probably quoted a couple times in the podcast, is over 70% of employees don't quit their job. They quit their manager, right? They quit their leader, their boss, whoever they're interacting with. And what a responsibility that is. Like even as a leader, you can either propel someone in a great direction, like you guys are doing with young kids, for example. You can give them the tools that they need and propel them in a good direction, or you don't.
Yeah, it's a powerful thing, and I think about it all the time. And as I tell people, leaders have to be willing to take risk, to fail, and get back up, and try it again, and to motivate a culture of failure. Sounds weird, but you learn so much when you fail. And don't punish when you fail. It's that, what did we learn from this? And let's try not to do it again. And if we do that as leaders, we can really change organizations in a great way. And it's hard. It's hard because we always want to get it right, but a lot of times we don't. Getting it wrong is right. Because you learn so much.
Good point.
And we often punish our children because they don't get it right. How many times do you're sweeping the kitchen floor and your kids say, I don't want to do that, Dad, Mom, I got it. Let the kid do it.
Yeah.
They may not do it the way we want, but they're learning. And that's the stuff that we've got to get to, and leaders, I think, are the ones that can help us do that. And the other thing we do is set the vision for where we want to go. And, at ChildSavers, when I started, it was 7,000 kids served, and today it's 33, 34. And our vision for our new strategic plan is 50,000 kids by 2028.
Wow.
Yeah. And we're an organization that started in Metro Richmond, and now we touch more than 70 jurisdictions in the Commonwealth.
Wow.
And it's exciting.
And people say big numbers, and sometimes it just goes over people's heads. I mean, that's 50,000 multiple different conversations, 50,000 different events, 50,000. We're talking about each one is not just like a check the box. Right? We're talking about multiple events and meetings, and oh my gosh.
Yeah. And the power of the story is really where it is. It is, and each child, each family is a story. And what we want to do is promote a story that says we can help these kids again be fabulous. Who wouldn't want to do that?
Yeah.
And if we all are thinking like that, imagine that energy pushing all of our children to be great.
Yeah.
Every single one of them.
Yeah.
No matter where they came from. Because kids are pretty amazing. When little kids meet each other, they see another little kid.
Yeah.
They see the differences, but they are all about, you're a kid like me. Hey, what can we do together?
Oh, yeah. It's also so simple, too. Well, talk to me a little bit about, like, one of the things I'm fascinated about is the difference between the day-to-day execution and the vision. Like you talk about vision, and you talk a little bit about day-to-day execution too. How as a leader, like you guys have 90 employees, 90-ish employees. How do you balance that? How do you balance the day-to-day with also the strategic plan of 50,000 kids?
It's tough. It's tough because but I think the answer is getting the right people around you and let them do their thing. And as my leader, as leader of ChildSavers, I got two responsibilities. I've got three. One is I've got to create an environment and culture where people feel safe and want to do the work. I've got to raise money. So everywhere I go, I'm talking about ChildSavers and making a pitch in some way. And the other place that you want is, what do we want to be in the next 100 years? I've always got to be thinking out there. And so my job is to look for people who can do the day-to-day operations and let them do what they do. And if you can do that, you can be successful. There, we were talking earlier before we came on about today was a legal day. It was just, you got to do the paperwork. You got to do all that kind of stuff. That's sort of the day-to-day operations you got to do periodically. But most of my time should be spent thinking about our future and convincing people that we're the right investment for them.
Right.
And I try to dedicate time to do that. And in our world, we called it cultivation or stewardship. And and
it's a lot of syllables.
It really is. How do you make people help people continue to understand what you're trying to do? And in the same way, a company is looking for investors and to buy their stock, and we're doing the same thing.
Or land large clients.
There you go.
Whatever
It's
it
the
might
same
be.
thing. You got to make people believe that you're doing great stuff, and if you could do that and demonstrate that you can continue to do that, people will invest. It's that simple. It's that simple.
Is there a moment since you've been at ChildSavers, like as a leader, you feel like particularly proud of, and then maybe even a moment where like something didn't turn out as you liked or hoped, or maybe a mistake you might call it, or setback, whatever you might be, and what you gleaned kind of from that experience?
Sure. I'll talk about what I feel proud of. I'm going to lean into this comfort, and some people say discomfort. I wanted an organization that was more reflective of the communities that we served, and that meant that we have to purposefully, with great intention, seek people who want to do this work who are different from one another, because that mix makes the work better. And I think ChildSavers has had success in that area. So I'm proud of that. I'm really proud of that. Some of the things I've learned, and that there are a lot. There are a lot. But I'm a pretty dogged individual. I've got big personality, and I recognize that in myself. I was what we would call a cocky young man. I was a running back in football. So give me the ball.
Give me the ball. And let me run.
I want it.
Move out of my way.
I want it. But sometimes as a leader, you got to say, you've got to create the opportunity for other people to be great, and that's a lesson you got to learn all the time. That you got people on your team who are watching you and they say, "Yeah, that's great. You can run the ball, but I think I can run it too. So help me get an opportunity to do that." And so I think where I've had some downfalls is when I didn't listen and when I didn't help somebody else. And to give you an example of the impact of helping somebody else, I asked a person that I thought was a great leader. He was head of school at the school I went to. And I asked him what was his great achievement as head of school. And I thought he was, we got this huge endowment now, we did all this kind of stuff. He said 13 people who worked for me became head of schools.
Wow.
That was his big thing. And I thought about that. I was like, wow. So his impact is a ripple effect. Yeah. Because he's trained and prepared all these other individuals to do what he did.
Wow.
That's what we should be doing.
Yeah. What an awesome statement.
Yeah.
I'm thinking about how many people are disappointed that someone took that job. Right. Like how many leaders like, well, this was more work on me and this, Yeah. Wow. Yeah, that says a lot, to his character.
Yeah, it is. He's a pretty amazing guy. And he's a guy that I admire even today. He's a pretty amazing guy.
That's amazing.
And, when I think about my parents, I always go back to them. I use this thing now when I introduce myself. I introduce myself in terms of my family lineage now, rather than all this other stuff. Because that's really who I am.
Yeah.
And a picture of my parents hanging on the wall in my office, because I like to look over there and think, wow, I wonder if they would be proud. And I think the answer to that question is yes.
Yeah,
100%.
So,
heck yeah.
100%.
I'm loving it.
You bring that up. I like Christian's asked this question before, which I like a lot. So going back, you mentioned your lineage and childhood. Like, if you could go back in time to a much younger self, you had a moment.
Not run it back.
Yeah, exactly. What would you tell younger Robert? Or instill some sort of nugget of wisdom you've learned. What would you tell your younger self?
Yeah, I mentioned this. Slow down and listen. Slow down and listen. The world moves really fast, but progress is intentionally slow. And the world will change, and you can have a piece of that, but you've got to see a bigger picture, because we see the moment, and I think it's better when we see the future.
Yeah,
it's what's out there. It's John F. Kennedy said, "Ask not what your country can do for you, but what you can do for your country." It's powerful.
Yeah,
it's powerful. And I grew up in an era where people were thinking about that. My father was in the service, and I think my father is one of the greatest patriots that I've ever met. And his experience in the service and in life, he didn't get the advantage of the GI Bill.
Yeah.
Because he was black, but he went on and did it anyway.
Yeah.
And that to me is what I would tell young Robert. Slow down, watch, be strategic. Don't try to win every battle.
Yeah.
That's great. I don't know if you guys play football. I'll tell you a really quick story.
Yeah.
So running back, I was short, but had great balance, and so hard to bring down. And I rushed to get to the hole. And my coach told me one day, slow down, man. You can't see the hole. He said, I'm going to teach you how to do this. He said, instead of going straight for the hole, take a lateral step. Give that guard a moment to pull, and he will move out of the way the individual that hits you every time.
Yeah, exactly.
And that happened, and all of a sudden, that little crevice I was trying to go through now became this big wide space that I didn't even have to dip. I just went straight through that.
Yeah.
And that's what I'm talking about. That
Slow
patience.
down. That's great.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Progress is intentionally slow.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah.
That gets me fired up.
I love that.
Yeah.
Well, do we have any rapid fire Richmond questions we want to ask?
Yeah,
Robert?
I say we'll ask a couple fun questions, and we always ask a couple questions in the show. And so, fun questions. We talked a little bit about this before we got on air, but restaurant-wise, you're in Churchill. I mean, Churchill has some unbelievable restaurants. And Richmond in general has unbelievable restaurants.
It is an incredible food town. So I'm going to take the safe road. So I'll explain it like this. My wife and I were talking about this over the weekend, and what it is we have date night. So date night is all about what do we want to try today, and is it Chinese? Is it Thai? Is it some flavor that we have no idea what it was? We did Italian the other day at a place. Found in Goochland that was a lot of fun. There's a place in Churchill that I go when my wife travels out of town, and I just like to sit at the bar, have a bourbon or a beer, and a great sandwich. It's fantastic. So I like exploring stuff. My wife is a great preparer of food. I'm learning how in my latter years.
Yeah.
And so if there's a restaurant that we venture into, it's all about date night.
Yeah.
And, I like bourbon. I like scotch as my first drink, but I love bourbon. My wife is what I would call a wine connoisseur, and she's brought me to understand wine.
Red wine?
She prefers red, but she runs the gamut.
She'll say whatever.
Yeah, wow. She knows it all. And, I admire that in her. And I was having an old-fashioned the other day, and she tasted it and said, ooh, I might like this. I'm like, come to the wild side. Come to the wild side. So restaurants and food in Richmond are great.
Yeah.
Museums are great here. just neighborhoods are great here.
Yeah.
It's a fun place to explore adventure. My exercise these days is less running and hitting things and more walking.
Yeah, walking around. And
it's fun to drive to
down the block with grandchildren.
There you go.
There you go.
And it's fun to drive to a different neighborhood and just walk the neighborhood.
Yeah.
And just see how different it is. Yeah.
If you weren't running ChildSavers, which you have been for a long time, if you weren't doing that, what would Robert Bolling be doing?
I've got this. I'm learning a lot about finance and financial institutions and building small economies. I would like to do some work like that around the world. Wow. To help develop small economies around the world so that people can be employed or be entrepreneurs and support their families. That, to me, would be a game changer.
That's awesome.
Game changer.
Maybe you will.
I know. Yeah.
Maybe you will after a couple bourbons.
Exactly. Yeah, a couple bourbons. I know. Might need to ask you some bourbon recommendations. That sounds great. I know.
Yeah, a couple.
Yeah. That's great. Should we do our question from?
Yeah, last two.
Yeah.
Yeah, so we'll do. Let's do a nonprofit one. Then we'll wrap it up.
So part of our show is, a lot of the guests we ask, is there a certain nonprofit that they want to give a shout out to that they support? Because we like to make a small gift to that nonprofit. So we're going to safely assume that we would like to give a shout out to ChildSavers. So as from the Richmond Leadership Lab, we're happy to make a small contribution for that. If people did want to also give to ChildSavers or come and support you guys, how could they do that?
Yeah, thanks for that question.
Of course.
Because it helps me do my job. So the first part is you can visit our website, childsavers.org. Very simple. There's a little red button in the corner that says donate. So you can hit that button if you want to give. But if you want to learn more about who we are, you can call us at 804-644-9590 and say, hey, I'm interested in what you do. Can I do a tour? We'll be happy to provide a tour and to tell you more about who we are and why that mission I talked about earlier is so important for the work that we do.
That's great.
So we would love to have you come.
Awesome.
Yeah,
yes.
I would love to see it.
Yeah.
Please do.
It's the best view. People probably have seen the building, but they don't know that's what it is. It's like it's the building that truly overlooks all of downtown at the top of that hill on Church Hill. And you get a lot of people coming, I'm sure, getting lunch, or I've had friends propose there and things like that, because that overlook is just amazing.
Graduation photos, all that kind of stuff. And in the spring, in April, we'll be doing another fundraiser called Supper at Sunset. So keep your ear out for that.
That'd be awesome.
It's a meal on the back lawn overlooking the city.
Yeah.
At sunset. It's an exciting...
With a couple bottles of wine by the wife coming out.
Yeah, maybe.
Yeah, exactly.
Or a specialty beverage.
Yeah, I like that. Yeah.
But it's we would love for folks to learn a lot. Just a little thing about the building. It was designed by an architect, Philip Johnson, who designed 2 buildings in Virginia, and ChildSavers is one of them. Yeah. And he designed it out of concrete. He was an early technologist, and so our shapes of our windows are in the old punch card for those folks who knew that. And it's a pretty solid place. He said this place will never be blown away. Yeah, he's probably right. Yeah.
That's cool.
It's a lot of concrete.
We know where we're going.
Yeah, exactly.
A lot of concrete.
If something happens, we're going there.
If it's a storm, we go down in the basement. We're safe.
Yeah, exactly.
We'll go there. Last question we ask all of our guests is by the Virginia Council of CEOs here in Richmond. And that question, and you alluded to it earlier, was surround yourself with good people. But how do you, as a CEO, it can be lonely at the top. How do you combat that or deal with that?
Yeah. Thanks. And I really appreciate that question because you're absolutely right. And it's to find your peer group. And for me, it was difficult in this job because there were, at the time that I started, there were not a lot of African Americans in this space.
Right.
So how do you best combat that? You start one. And so we started an organization called African American Nonprofit Leaders. And we come together to help each other just breathe, is what we call it. But we also come together to think about how can we prepare the next level of leaders in Greater Richmond. And that's exciting for me. We've gotten support from the funding community that says, yes, this is an important investment. So that's one way. I read a lot, and that really helps me. I read about decision making and what drives people to make the decisions that they do, good or bad. But it's important to do that. I read about. I like to read autobiographies because it really is the voice of the individual. I went back and read. I read a book that I hadn't read in a long time, and it was War and Peace. I hadn't read that. I read that in high school, and it took me a while to read it again. But it just thinking about how people were writing and thinking. James Baldwin is one of my favorite writers, so I read a lot of the characters that he talks about. I like really developed characters who are telling a story about themselves and the world around them. So that as a leader, it's that kind of stuff that helps me. If there's an article on a successful leader, I'll try to read something about that. I listen to podcasts.
Yeah, hey. Especially this one.
Yeah, exactly. Around leadership. And so it's that's the way I sort of take care of myself. And I've got a rule when I come in the house, and my wife and I developed this as we were both working professionals. She's now retired. But the first 15 minutes, no work. It's decompression time, and it's a great thing because you walk in, you can just sit on the sofa for a minute or two, that 15 minutes, and just relax.
Yeah,
and then you can have a conversation.
It's a good break.
It's a nice break.
That's great.
Nice break.
That's some good advice.
Yeah. Well, Robert, if people want to get in touch with you, how could they do that?
My email is rbowling@childsavers.org. You can reach out to me. That number, 804-644-9590. You can give a call, and they will connect you to me. And
you can run, but you can't hide.
No, I cannot hide.
Yeah.
I love this town. It's the town of my birth, but also the town of my life. My children were raised here. I met my bride here. My siblings and I have great memories. We often think about our parents and what would they do and what would they think of us. And it's kind of a cool place to grow up and be a part of.
Yeah.
Well, we're honored to have you.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Yeah.
Thank you.
It's been great, Robert. Thank you again for coming. We've
Yeah.
learned a lot and really appreciate it. So thanks for joining us today.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.